Hello, friends. Happy Thursday, and welcome to today's live level up conversation. Whether you're tuning in live or catching me on replay, thank you so much for joining us. And let's get started.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun. Market Update. Speed Round. Award-winning financial pro. And now, get ready. I present to you Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hi, friends. It's Winnie here. And as you know, I'm a Forbes contributor, CNBC council member, and contributor. And I'm here as your host today. I'm so excited to be joining you live. If you're joining me live, definitely jump in, say hello, let me know how your week's been going. Like, hopefully, it's been going well. It's been kind of a rocky day in the markets, but it stays like this that make us happy. And I see Joshua Crossex Fighter. Hello, Frandy, also joining us on YouTube. It's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Let's talk about the market, right? We want to talk about things like this. Today is actually a good day. The market's up and positive. Dow is barely up. I was kidding. It's not barely up. It's up 317 points. Nasdaq is up 65 points, and the S&P 500 is up 25 points as well. This is a good day. In fact, there's a lot of stuff happening in the technology world, but here's what we do know that's been sort of helping drive this increase in the green today. The Fed has raised its GDP projections for this year, but it also sees 3 rate cuts coming in 2024. Everybody was sort of paying attention to what the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell was going to say yesterday, and this was shared by Jesse Pound on CNBC. But the Federal Reserve has updated its economic projections, showing really an improvement, in fact, on the U.S. GDP growth here and inflation rates as well. And also saying that they're going to be cutting interest rates 3 times in 2024. That's like a very strong, very clear indication of what's happening. And investors like clarity, and they certainly like the idea of rates getting cut. I don't know. I mean, if you have a lot of money in CDs and stuff, you might not be so happy the rates are getting cut. But for many people who have like credit card debt and like looking for mortgage rates to come down, well, this is certainly good news. So Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has not acknowledged, of course, the complexity of all this data that's coming out on the inflation front, but also he's suggesting that there's going to be a gradual decrease towards that 2% target in terms of interest rates, right? So we'll just have to keep on top of that story, keep on watching, and I'll keep you updated as we learn more. But I want to segue over because, we have some days where it just seems like one company or one executive is all about in the news. And this is kind of a big one. Yes. Hello, Franny. I see you too. Thank you so much for being here. And CrossFit Fighter, it's great that your week is going well. Thumbs up to that. I want to talk about this. So this was sort of top news, and it's shared by CNBC, Kip Leswing, Rowan also sharing this. Department of Justice here in the United States. This is a big deal. A landmark antitrust case against the one and only Apple. Yeah, big. This is a significant move. This happened March 21st, 2024. So this week, U.S. Department of Justice is taking legal action against tech darling Apple, initiating this landmark antitrust lawsuit. Now, for those of you who are like me, who use Apple products, I mean, I'm on a Mac here with you live. I'm using my iPhone on the side here. And, I've got the iPad. This is something you'll want to pay attention to because they're talking about Apple and what they're doing in terms of having a monopoly, not only just on the smartphone side with the iPhone, but they're talking about how that then impacts things like app developers and consumers like you and I who use their ecosystem, their products in their ecosystem, right? And they're talking about even the Apple Watch and Apple Pay and like basically so many of Apple's technologies. Now, this lawsuit is challenging Apple's very tightly controlled ecosystem, which let me know, raise a hand or just put a hand emoji out there. How many of you out there watching use Apple products? I would say that I'm going to guess that even if you're an Android phone user, there probably is something else in your life that is Apple driven. I don't know. But they're saying that they're really examining the impact of a monopoly, not only here in the United States but also globally as well. And this outcome, they're saying, could significantly affect the way that Apple conducts business, and it is going to also impact regulatory approaches across different companies beyond Apple in the tech industry. So the lawsuit is now extending beyond the iPhone, the Apple Watch, advertising, even browser, FaceTime, news services, all this about the anti competitiveness strategies that Apple uses to continue to hold its place in terms of dominance. So Apple faces considerable risk with this, particularly concerning things such as the Apple iPhone, which I love. And I'm thinking many of you who are on this, I know Vicky, who joins us on the show often, she's a big fan. She's usually a part of our audience here. But yeah, the iPhone itself has generated over $200 billion in sales just last year. And the Apple Watch, of course, is also a very lucrative service and continues to be really popular area. And so this could impact so many pieces of Apple's big pie, I guess. So we'll see how that unfolds. But I want to make sure that you had that on your radar. And I'm curious to see how you feel about that. Do you feel like, well, sometimes, companies do need to have some sort of control in the way that they conduct business to continue to be competitive and to continue to hold their place and maybe the top spot? Or do you feel like, that makes sense? Maybe there needs to be some sort of um, change in the way that they conduct business to prevent monopolies from happening, and that antitrust challenges are something that the US and internationally different countries should have more of a say in. Do you think that's too much government? Do you think that's a fair amount of government? Or do you think it's something in between? I'm curious to see how you feel about that. All right. So speaking of all things Apple, I want to go to my next story. And this is a big one too. So here's the thing. Does this change your view of our first story? So this is a story that came out from the New York Times. Trip Mickle shared this with Nico Grant, Brian Chen, also contributing to this article, talking about how Apple is now in talks with Google to integrate their generative AI technology into their iPhone's future. Now, talking about antitrust, talking about companies that have a monopoly, I think we can agree that probably Apple and Google would be companies that you would use as a case study of examples of companies that really have a stronghold and on in the technologies that they create and they provide us on a day-to-day basis. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm curious to see how you feel about that. But certainly we can't argue that both of them are leaders and both of them have considerable tools that we enjoy and use on a day-to-day basis, right? So there are now early conversations between Apple and Google about bringing this technology together, leveraging this large language model technology. AI firms have, such as Google, into the Apple product ecosystem as well. So competitors like Samsung and Google have been advancing and really embedding generative AI into their products, and Apple wants to do the same thing. So they're also starting to introduce more AI capabilities. We heard Tim Cook talking about this. We know they exited the Apple Car project and really want to focus more on AI. So this partnership between Apple and Google could be a very crucial one, since the Apple iPhones um, start, and that Apple, of course, has been providing many essential services such as Google Maps and sort of being the default search engine on Safari. Contributed, of course, to Apple's iPhone success as well. And it looks like they're just trying to level up that relationship. So curious to see how you feel about that. You like it? You don't like it? What do you think about this collaboration? And does this sort of push even deeper into sort of those antitrust discussions that we had just a few seconds ago? So here's to see how you feel about that. But I think it's something that we're going to definitely watch very closely. And for those of you who use Apple products, maybe something to look forward to, that you'll have more of these sort of technologies at on your tools, through maybe software updates, or maybe who knows, maybe we'll have to be buying new technology, and maybe the upgraded technology will have more of these features, given that I believe a lot of these AI features actually we're going to need more chip power to run as well. Yeah. So there we go. And then, so the story that I had shared with you just briefly yesterday, I want to make sure that I cover this today, just kind of give you an update on this as well. And I think this is an interesting story because it talks about the sort of the future of media, currently where we at, and really sort of transformation of media in the last 10, 20 years from, it wasn't that long ago. Well, I guess it was some long ago, where we would sit around the table and maybe read the newspaper, or we would get around the television and watch like regular TV with commercials and hiatus periods. And now everything's streaming, right? And now with media, like many of us don't read the newspaper because number one, a lot of times the news is already um, dated and older by the time it shows up at your doorstep if you get it delivered, right? Or you used to get it delivered. And so everything is sort of transforming. Well, this is an interesting story because Sports Illustrated, they're talking about that new era and what that looks like. We know that many of you are familiar with the brand. We talked about it on the show before. And, they've always had a more traditional format in a printed magazine. And of course, like most media companies, also have a website, and really the direction that they're going. I mean, not that long ago, the Los Angeles Times and many other publications really relied heavily on their print publications. But we know now with competition, everything needs to be mobile, digital, and sort of the race to also earning subscribers on their digital platforms as well to both to continue to stay sustainable, right? Well, it's interesting because Sports Illustrated, as now launching, this is actually shared on the New York Times by Benjamin Mullen, the company behind sort of Players Tribune, Minute Media, has now um, signed a deal, a licensing agreement to handle Sports Illustrated for a minimum of 10 years. Sort of, this, they have the option to extend it for 3 years, but this new agreement is sort of a big one for Minute Media, which is a New York based digital media conglomerate, which has annual revenues exceeding $400 million a year. The deal is going to include, of course, the iconic Sports Illustrated swimwear brand, which I'm guessing no company would do a deal without that. But the new licensing deal is expected to kind of help level up Sports Illustrated itself, transitioning its operations from the Arena Group, which had hinted of their intention to sort of discontinue the magazine's print version. And we know that Sports Illustrated publishing footprint has been iconic to its brand, right? So this is a new thing. They're saying this new company, Minute Media, they're really committed to sort of taking this not just here in the United States, but going more global. And they not only want to continue to have their print version, but they also want to take it to video and audio and text and everything else. And they also said they will be committed to upholding Sports Illustrated's legacy of in-depth sports journalism. So, see, what do you think about that? I think it's an interesting one, and it's interesting to me because it's like not, for a while, print media was everything. Television, of course, big, but now, online media and internet media, internet advertising was sort of like the new, which wasn't quite seen as being as credible to traditional finding old traditional news. But now media is taking a new spin, and that's where the money is. And so they're sort of coming together. These two worlds is coming together. And we'll continue to follow that story and see how that does. But let's talk about the next story. And this is a big one. And this is MegaMillions. All right. So many of you have, about the lotto, but the MegaMillions, I don't know if you've been following the news, but they're heading towards the $1 billion mark once again. And the drawing is going to take place tomorrow, this Friday. So, as of yesterday, it was skyrocketing to about $977 million. It may have already crossed the $1 billion mark today. I don't know. Shared on NBC News. And yes, the drawing is happening tomorrow. It is one of the biggest in history. After 29 consecutive draws without a jackpot winner, the prize pool now has grown significantly since the last win, which actually occurred December of last year. So, in case you were wondering, that's where it is. Now, if you are going to participate in this, please do so responsibly and be careful. The odds of winning, of course, are not that great, but it is what it is. That's what's happening, and that will be taking place this Friday. All right, let's take a look at the market now. Currently, the Dow is up 307 points. The Nasdaq's up 59 points, and the S&P 500 is also in the positive, up 21 points. So hopefully that continues, and it continues to be a great day, and the market closes in the positive. But thank you so much, my friends, for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here. Please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on all things business. And of course, thanks so much for being a part of the Level Up community. I really appreciate you being here. And don't forget you can find full episodes of Level Up with me on NASDAQ, Amazon Fire, Samsung, LG, Roku, and many other platforms. And when you're sharing the episode online, please do me a favor and tag at Winnie Sun to show your support so I can personally thank you on a future episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, you can check out Yes Factor with Winnie Sun on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you turn in to podcasts, and that's with the LinkedIn Podcast Network. Thank you. Be well, and I'll see you very soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.